Hello and welcome back with another episode review of the animated series. Today we're going to talk about The Eye of the Beholder. In this episode, the Enterprise is patrolling around the Lactra VII. They're searching for a missing science team from the USS Ariel. From the last captain's log, it appears the captain and one of the crew members beamed down to try to rescue the 3 other crew members from the planet, but unfortunately they never returned to the Ariel. So that was a surprising comment on Captain Kirk when he said, "A captain should always follow the rules. They should not leave the ship unattended just as it is, because it's against the regulations." But then Kirk decides to beam down with a landing party to the planet's surface to retrieve and to try to figure out what happened with the crew of the Ariel. But Dr. McCoy has an objection against the whole situation because it's taking a risk, and why a captain has to go down while he was actually saying, okay, the previous captain did something stupid against regulations, and beaming down starship captain to the surface, taking the risk, it's not really something by the book, and he wanted to do everything by the book, so it was a bit strange situation. But then they beam down. This planet is so alien for them. Actually, there are multiple life forms available in this planet, so a dragon-like creature in the sea, and then a dinosaur-like creature in the ground, and then the same dragon creatures, the flying dragon creatures from previous episode, Once Upon a Planet, when they actually went back to the amusement park planet from the original series. So experiencing all this stuff, they try to stun every life form, and surprisingly enough, there was a scene when the dinosaur creature being paralyzed and it fall into Dr. McCoy, but it's a huge dinosaur and Dr. McCoy survived the crash, so it was a quite highly unlikely situation. Funny situation, because Kirk and Spock try to move the dinosaur's tail to retrieve McCoy underneath the dinosaur's tail, but then they weren't able to do it. Doesn't make any sense, because Spock has 3 times more energy and power than any humans, and Kirk is there as well, so it's like 4 people trying to move a tail of a dinosaur and retrieve McCoy, who's stuck underneath the tail of the dinosaur. But they weren't able to do it, so Spock suggested logically, okay, if we can't move the tail, just dig out Dr. McCoy. And surprisingly, Dr. McCoy survived. So digging a hole underneath someone and pulling it out from underneath the tail of a dinosaur, it's a bit more fantasy than science, to be honest. But moving on, they've been captured by a slug-race, a big giant slug-race. And they headed towards the planet. They've been dragged to the planet to several hours of traveling with these slugs, and they put them in a cage. And yeah, it was a cage, yes. As it turned out, they had multiple life forms in that city where they live, these slug creatures, the Lactrans. So they had multiple cages, multiple species in multiple environments, and it turned out it's a zoo. And as I said before, it's a cage. So basically this episode is based on the unearthed pilot, the cage itself, where you have several life forms in different cages, and it's like a display, it's like a zoo. So in this cage, they actually find out there's the rest of the crew of the Ariel. And in terms of trying to solve the situation, Spock tries to communicate with these creatures, with the Lactrans, tries to use telepathic communication with them, but apparently these slug creatures are more advanced in telepathic communication than in the Vulcans. So it was kind of difficult to getting in contact with this race, but they realized after a while, if they can just focus on one thought, they will understand, and they will keep them being harmed or getting any trouble out of this situation. So in this case, they managed to get a medikit for Dr. McCoy, who were able to treat the patient, one of the crew member who was ill, and they got back the communicator as well, after all, because they wanted to contact with the Enterprise. So Kirk and Spock thought, if Kirk faints pretending he's ill, all the others are focusing on Kirk and the communicator, they will be able to get the communicator, because they will think the communicator will be necessary to retrieve Kirk from this state. So they managed to get the communicator, and one of the slug baby creature takes the communicator after they realize what they're trying to do, and instead of transporting back Kirk and the rest of the landing party to the Enterprise. So the slug creature ends up in the Enterprise. It's caused an interesting situation because the baby Lactrans will grab Mr. Scott, and they go into the bridge, and this baby Lactrans is only 6 years old, but he is actually acting like 1,000 years old, so he has an unimaginable amount of memory and power and brain function. So he learns a lot about the systems of the Enterprise, and he learns a lot about the humans and the Federation, and actually Scotty was able to convince him to go down to the surface because they did not harm to there, but they want to retrieve their people, and they still evolving. So the Lactran baby and Scotty beams down to the surface, and the Lactran baby tells everything to their parents, obviously telepathically, so we can't hear anything from the conversation. And he explains as well we should leave them evolve to the state when we will be able to communicate and we will be able to understand each other in a better sense. So they go back to the Enterprise, and Spock receives a final message from the Lactrans as they will be welcomed back to the planet in 30 or 40 centuries from their time. It caused a little problem even for Spock because he said it will need a little time to figure out what's gonna be the 30-40 centuries in their lifetime. So fun fact, as I said, the story based on the cage itself, and it was an interesting parallel between the two episodes. In the cage they were in Talos 4, and the Talosians, the human alien-like creatures, and they communicated telepathically as well, and they didn't really hear, nobody really heard anything about their conversation. So, but in this case there was slug-race also communicating telepathically, so it was a parallel between the two episodes, and they've been displayed as well. And even in the displays, while they're moving to their cage, there was multiple races, multiple life forms caged in, just like in the cage, the unmanned pilot. So the banter between Dr. McCoy and Spock in this episode was just amazing. When in the end of the episode, when Spock was receiving all the messages from the Lactrans, and he said, "With these people will evolve," and Dr. McCoy says, "Even the Vulcans," and you can actually hear a little annoyed voice tone from Spock as well. "Yes, Doctor, even the Vulcans." So the story itself was a reused story in a sense, but obviously it was in a different settings, it was a different environment, and it was I think it was a really good episode. In terms of ratings, you know, my 1 to 5 ratings, I would definitely say 5 out of 5. I didn't really see anything bad with this episode, apart from the dinosaur. Well, that actually I think I should go for 4 out of 5 because that scene just doesn't really fit in the physical understanding. I mean, if you get hit by a big giant dinosaur tail and you're stuck underneath the tail for a couple of minutes, I don't think you will be able to survive and someone dig you out. So it was a bit unrealistic, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone can survive that. So if you happen to be underneath him in a dinosaur stage, just let me know in the comment section below, and I will be happy to correct my mistake. I would definitely recommend to watch this episode and the entire animated series. Actually, we're only 1 episode far from the ending of season 1, and season 2 will be only 6 episodes, so there's not a lot left in terms of the animated series. So if you're watching my animated series episode reviews, honestly, I really thank you very much for sticking with me with this journey. As I said before at the beginning, I'm watching it the first time, so everything what I say and everything what I actually, my opinion is really the first impression. So, and it's so interesting to see a animated series of Star Trek. This is like for me, this feels like the 4th season of the anime, the original series. When I will finish this episode reviews, definitely will be a big recap on the animated series itself. So that's kind of a bigger arc. It will be multiple videos just out of this animated series, which I hope you're gonna like and you're gonna watch as well. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and share the video, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive all the geekiness twice a week. Until next time, live long and prosper. Do you have any information about Starfleet, if they have any plans to resolve the situation and help the Bajan government to solve this refugee crisis?
Yes, Gary, Starfleet is working on a relocation project with the reluctant Korean people. Starfleet has picked out the planet Draylon 2 and it has been approved by the Skrian provincial government.